Hi, I'm Em, and this is Fang Farrier. This episode, we'll be talking about the not-so-social dental social media. If you're not paying for the product, you are the product. Justin Rosenstein said that, former Facebook and Google engineer, and someone driving the program The Social Dilemma. I don't think it always started out quite so deviously. Yes, I'm sure they were collecting data, and yes, they were always trying to develop it. But back when I joined Facebook in 2005, it was just an easy way to share photos. Rather than emailing large images, being able to connect with my family that I'd just moved the other side of the world from my friends in the Navy who I'd just left behind. It was an easy way to touch base with people and not feel so lonely on the other side of the world. I kept my privacy pretty well tuned in so that it was just family and friends. I didn't want patients finding me, and I didn't want to be sharing my personal life with them. And that's how I stayed on Facebook for many years. A bit of a recluse, just interacting with those I wanted to. And of course, things were creeping in, like your like buttons and your messaging and advertising. But it didn't really impact me too much. Until I burnt out. And not that it particularly impacted me during my burnout, but as part of that, I retrained and became a personal trainer and launched a fitness business, working for my own personal training studio, and prior to that, trying to launch an online business. This is back in 2016, so when that was still very much just starting out. And it was an eye-opener for me because suddenly I needed to be on a more public profile and I needed to engage more with people I'd been hiding from on social media. So I opened a second account, a public account, one that just had all the fitness stuff that I wanted it. And I started my own groups to support women on their fitness journeys. And in amongst all of this, I was learning about Facebook marketing, about how to get engagement on Facebook and how to keep people reading my stuff and staying on my sites and with a view to selling a service at the end of the day. And I'd kind of forgotten all about that until I watched The Social Dilemma. And you start to realize how all of those tools for narrowing down and targeting groups for Facebook ads can be applied in a wider sense for actually some quite devious purposes, but also can help drive bringing out the worst in us. Even when I was doing these advertising and marketing courses, one of the chief points to encourage engagement was to create polarization within a group with your audience. Stand for something a bit more extreme, a bit more that other people don't stand for. And yes, you'll get the haters, but you'll get those that love it just as much, and you'll get your true clients from there. And you can see this on the greater platforms now in terms of using our own psychology against us or for somebody else or some other purpose. Also on The Social Dilemma on Netflix, Jaron Liner said, "It's the gradual, slight, imperceptible change in our own behaviour and perception that is the product." So the likes of Facebook, as I say, I talk about Facebook mainly because that's the majority of my experience, but this applies to other platforms too, is that they are now business models, selling advertising space, selling clicks, selling engagement time, selling viewing time on videos. So it's all about polarization, which can lead to an awful lot of discord. And it can be easy enough to kind of stay away from the obvious stuff on Facebook, like the political side of things, and tune down the voices you don't want to hear. But the really dangerous part, I find, is the role that kind of teaching of us as users and how to engage in the platform can have a knock-on effect into groups that can be quite toxic. Now, I'm not going to name and shame. There are some wonderful Facebook groups out there, but there are some that I've stayed briefly in and left because the atmosphere and the way that questions are treated or answered or mocked in some instances can just be destroying, and it's just not a place I want to hang out. But I had been a dental recluse for years, and I qualified in 2000, so that's way before all these platforms were around. So I'm not necessarily engaging with my peer group as I left uni. I've managed to make some contacts since, but certainly not in contact with all my friends. So when the fitness side of it kind of morphed, I changed from just personal training and training personal trainers actually in nutrition coaching to thinking that I actually wanted to help dentists and engage in what I knew, because how it helped me back out of a burnout. I started looking for dental groups and engaging in dental social media. And it was shocking. It was quite disheartening. One, it was overwhelming in terms of somebody just trying to pick out groups to join, because there are so many of them, and so many that are either location based or just massive groups. But I probably gravitated towards a few UK ones, a few Australasian ones, and a few American ones as well. And it was actually quite horrifying to see how some of these groups interact with each other. And particularly the ones that are not dentist only and have dental auxiliaries or nurses or people like that asking questions that are just shot down for not knowing the answer in the first place. It's just not a positive or kind of growth environment. It's very toxic. It very much thrives on the one-upmanship of someone telling you, that they were right. And how could you not know this? Very opinionated, very polarized. And there were groups that I wouldn't even engage in and left quite shortly afterwards. There are a few groups I'm still in that I engage in every now and again, but really I just use them as a barometer for what the feeling is out there with what's going on in the world of dentistry, because you can pick that up from not just the posts that are made, but the comments that are followed up and what that kind of feels like, whether it's been helpful, whether it's been echoed and yes, that's me too, or whether it's been mocked and put down. Or trivialized and shamed as something else that I've seen. It's that polarization. It's that people aren't using these platforms to find information, not information that's useful for critical thinking. It works very much on the idea of that confirmation bias, that tendency to search for or interpret and recall information in a way that confirms or supports your prior beliefs or values. That is, that it's very easy to look out and seek out things that go, yep, I was right in the first place. And the algorithms on these platforms are designed to put that information in front of you. And it's probably most evident in political conversations where you see people who are just adamant that someone is right or some absolutely crazy out there idea is 100% true. And you can be thinking, well, how can they think this when all I'm being shown is to the contrary? And the answer is that the algorithms are letting them see what they want to see and letting them further that polarization and opinions and put them more staunch in their place, and they'll be more defensive of it, and they'll be more proactive in putting down people who oppose it. And that's what we see in these groups sometimes. Because on the opposite side of it, you've got the DisConfirmation bias, which is just as bad. And that's a tendency to accept the supportive evidence for your belief uncritically, but to actively refute or discount evidence that challenges that belief. And this is where that mix of social media and evidence-based science and professions really come up against it, because it's not a platform that encourages critical thinking. And there are some groups out there that do a really good job with it, but I would almost be wary of joining a group that's too large, because it won't be not to say it won't be well managed, but it's very, very difficult to manage effectively a group that is got like 20,000 people in it. It's just constant. The notifications they're getting, they can't monitor their posts, let alone the comments that are going on them. And I think when these groups first came up, because they'd be a private group and you were in them and you felt safe, but there have been enough screenshots and sharing amongst some that make you realize that it's not necessarily the safe haven that you think it would be. I don't know what it is. I mean, the only way I can think about it, and this is going to come across as a bit sexist, because when I think of all the negative comments and the absolute shaming and humiliation that sometimes goes on in the comment sections, not so much the postings, it is generally guys. And I think back to dental school, I think back to school even. I don't know whether it's just a sexist thing, is that you just remember those guys. There was always a group, the smarmy, I'm always right, doesn't matter what you do, make you feel inadequate or put down, or that you shouldn't be speaking up, or that your opinion doesn't matter or count. You know, these are the people that are thriving in some of these groups it's like groups for trolls, but that's not the majority of the people in them, but they tend to be the ones that come out with actually when you post the most vulnerable posts. And part of Brené Brown's teaching on kind of shame and vulnerability is that, yes, we need to be vulnerable to move on and to grow and to move past shame, but only to be vulnerable in a safe space, and only to tell your story to those that have earned the right to hear it. So what I really wanted to do with today's podcast was talk about, I guess, my kind of rules or guidance for how to negotiate dental Facebook or any other social media platform. Because when I was running those groups, and I do still run a group, I run a dental group called Fang Farriers, but when I was running my exercise groups and challenges, and had a page for the personal training studio, I had a page for my dental thing, and a general fitness page, and I'd got all of these things going on. I just found I fell into that cycle of just always being on my phone, or on social media and repeatedly checking notifications, and it doesn't do you any good whatsoever. So I've kind of come up with ways to manage that, because it is a double-edged sword. If I want to talk to people out there, then I have to use platforms to do it. Because if I just spoke to the dentists I see here in Christchurch in New Zealand, I wouldn't have too much of an impact at all. And I know there's more of you out there that need to hear this. So yes, I'm still very active on Facebook. I have trimmed down trying to be everywhere all at once, which I was with the fitness side of it. That said, I'm about to list where I am, and that sounds like a big list. So I am on Instagram, but actually it's a personal account, and I don't really seek out dental Instagram at all. Just like when I was personal training, I didn't seek out Insta models and Insta fitness either. It was just a bit depressing. I am on Twitter. Don't know how to use it really. Not very good at it, but I do enjoy it, and I find a much more open and supportive dental community there. I am on YouTube actually, but that's mainly for podcasts and some shorter videos that I used to do. But within Facebook, first of all, if you can take the app off your phone, do. I can't, because I like to post photos from my phone, so I haven't quite got that far. But at least turn the notifications off, so you're not seeing every 2 seconds your red bell or your notification on your home screen. Is try and get that out of your regular contact. I see an increase in nurses bringing their phones into the surgery. It's always in the scrub pocket or in the scrub room, or it's never far away. Whereas, not that I don't check my phone at work, I do. I shouldn't, but I do. But my phone is always in my bag in the tea room. It's further away. Drives my husband nuts because I don't check my texts during the day either. And he'll get home and go, "Oh, did you get that text? Well, I could look at it now. That would be fine." But this increased kind of attachment to phones and notifications. So, I mean, if you can, get these apps off your phone. If you're not using one frequently, don't have it on your home screen. Delete it, go back into it when you want to use it. I'm constantly deleting apps on and off my phone because I don't want to see them or use them or have them distract me whilst I'm doing something on the iPad. I don't want to know about the rest of the world. If you're in a load of groups, go back and look at them. Cut down the amount of groups you're in. Cull them. You'll find that you will have picked them up along the way. Some you don't even participate in anymore and you never see notifications. Trim it down. But also ask the questions of yourself: am I getting any use out of this group? Is it serving a purpose for me? Or had it served a purpose at the time and it no longer does so? Is it leaving me more positive than when I join it, or does it just anger me and infuriate me? Because if it does, you don't need to see that or be involved with it. It doesn't enhance your day. It doesn't improve your opinion of the profession or anything along those lines. It's just step away. But if you are in a group that you get use out of, especially these big dental groups, really read the posts that are being put on. Do you need to comment or engage? Quite often you don't, and you're not being asked to. Everything you kind of like and share and comment on amplifies what you're reading. Is it worthy of amplification, or is it actually something you can just read and move on from? If it's a question or it's a topic that you do want to engage in, is your opinion being asked for? Is there a specific question being asked? Because so many times you'll see someone and they'll specifically say in the question, I'm using this software. So they're not asking what other software is out there, and I'm having this particular problem. but it opens the floodgates for everybody to talk about their favourite software, other things it does, things a way around it. And it's done in the best of intentions, but it's not answering the question and just diluting what's going on. Has the question already been answered? Maybe just like that, rather than add to another stream of 20 questions that have already engaged. And say, if you're posting and you're asking vulnerable questions, is it a safe space to do that? So there are some amazing groups out there where it's very much a safe space, and you can ask questions that you feel ashamed and embarrassed to ask, and they will be met with nothing but care and kindness and concern and people wanting to help. And there are others where it can be a roll of the dice. I've seen groups where people have asked about things like holistic dentistry and amalgam removal, and they have been torn apart in the comments. Absolutely torn apart. It makes me angry. It saddens me. I feel for the person that's posted. That to me is a massive kind of get out of Dodge, step away from the group, step away from the platform you're on. That's not helpful. So try and dial it down. Try and use only one or two platforms that you really use and have them for a primary purpose. So if you are using Instagram for dental, follow your people and be using it for videos you want to see or things you want to compare and techniques you want to follow. Don't just have everything in there. If you're keeping Facebook and you want to just keep it for family, do just that, or just stay in one or two groups. I find that there's still a lot of sexism in our profession, not as overt as it has been, but very subtle kind of, it's hard to describe. And I would imagine that it's worse so for women of certain ethnicities, because just even as a white female dentist, I find that my opinion is not necessarily as highly regarded or asked for, and I see people valuing male dentists with less experience more over myself, and I've seen that right the way through from dental school. It's not it's nothing major, but it's constant. So I would definitely advise all the female dentists out there to be in at least one female only dental group. I'm in two, and it's just a different temperature and atmosphere to the group. But then again, there are probably bad female groups out there too. I haven't come across them. But the other is that if you've got one or two groups that are meeting your needs, you don't need to join every single one. You don't need to know what's going on in every single one. It can get addictive. Just dial it down and watch your own security. So I would love to say just switch it off and step away. But social media can be just that. It can be social. It can be great for connection, and actually, particularly in these kind of COVID times, it can be great to use to just stay in touch and to realise that everyone's in shared experiences with you. We are in a very lonely and isolating profession, and definitely using a platform to stay in touch with people whose opinions you value, but also stay in touch with people in groups completely outside of dentistry that help pursue your passions and your hobbies. So yep, it's all doom and gloom, and as I finish every episode, I'll say that you can find me on Twitter at Fang_Farrier. I'll add to that I'm on Facebook as Ems Courtney, and my group there for dentists and dental professionals is Fang Farrier, same as the podcast. So until next time, Take care of yourself. Try not to look at your phone too much. Catch you later.